Mother said she was too ill for our traditional Christmas family trip. Then I saw her on TV at Miami Beach with my brother's family. This is really precious family time for US. So I made sure they couldn't come back home. Next week? My name is Irene. I am 35 years old and live with my husband and our 2 sons. I met my husband, Martin, during our university years, and we got married right after graduation. Martin is gentle and kind. He has always been my emotional support, and even now, he remains someone I deeply cherish. We have 2 sons, Raphael, who is 8 years old, and Philip, who is 5. Both of them are full of energy, constantly running around the house, bursting into laughter over silly things and causing some kind of commotion every single day. To me, this life was exactly what I had dreamed of. I felt that the happy family I had imagined as a child was right here. However, deep inside, there was always a shadow I could never fully erase. As Christmas approached, childhood memories would come back to me vividly. I remembered fighting with my brother, René, over ornaments for the tree, the sweet aroma of the gingerbread cookies our mother baked, and the warmth of the picture books our father read to us by the fireplace. But at the same time, a sharp pain would prick at my chest. René and I had always been treated differently. Because René was the eldest son, he was praised no matter what he did. While I was constantly told, "You're the younger sister, so you should let him have it." Even when René threw a ball against the wall and broke a vase, for some reason, I was blamed for not watching him properly. It was the same with Christmas presents. René would get the latest game console or a brand new bicycle while I was given a hand-me-down scarf from a neighbor or an old book with the excuse that it was still usable. It felt like the difference in affection was being blatantly shown to me. One day, as I was reminiscing about the past, I received a call from my mother. "I'm sorry, but we've decided not to have a Christmas party this year. The house renovations are taking longer than expected, and the work isn't finished yet. The house is still a mess, and the living room furniture isn't even set up. I just don't think we can host a party in such an uncomfortable state. And more than anything, I just can't relax until the renovations are done, so I'm not in the mood for a party." "Oh, I see." I felt a little disappointed but understood her reasoning. After all, my parents' house was getting old, and since I was paying for half of the renovation costs, I knew the situation well. "But instead, we're going on a trip with René and his family." My mother's voice sounded cheerful. "Shelley arranged everything. The grandkids are really looking forward to it." "What? A trip?" I couldn't help but ask. "What about us? You should spend a relaxing time with your family." She said it so casually. Christmas is meant to be spent with family. After I hung up the phone, I stood there in shock for a while. That night, I vented to Martin. "Can you believe this? She told me there won't be a party this year. But then she turns around and goes on a trip with René's family," I muttered bitterly as I cleared the dinner plates. "René again?" Martin let out a deep sigh. "Your family really does treat him like he's special. It's always been that way." I sank onto the couch. When René scored a goal in soccer, the whole house erupted in celebration. But when I ranked first in my grade, all I got was a simple, "Oh, that's nice." Martin sat beside me and gently wrapped an arm around my shoulders. "But this is just awful." She said she was too busy with the house renovations to host a party, but she still has time to go on a trip with René's family, and after you paid for half of the renovation costs? Exactly. Anger welled up inside me. Why am I always the one being pushed aside? Why is it always René? Martin said nothing. He simply held my hand gently. The warmth of his touch calmed me a little, but the years of unfair treatment, the anger and sadness weren't so easily erased. "This Christmas, let's just spend it peacefully as a family." Martin smiled gently. "A real family is one that supports each other with love, right? Let's show them what that really means." I leaned against him, holding back my tears. But even the next day, my heart remained unsettled. Was it really true that they were going on a trip with René's family? I picked up my smartphone and called René. After a few rings, he answered, "Hey, what's up?" His voice was as casual as ever. "René, I just have something I want to ask." I tried my best to keep my tone calm. "Mom told me that there won't be a Christmas party this year?" "Yeah, because of the renovations. There's no choice, right?" He responded lightly. "I understand that. But I also heard that you're going on a trip together." I chose my words carefully. "We weren't told anything about it." "What's that about?" René fell silent for a moment, then let out a sigh. "Oh, that Mom said it would be difficult to invite you guys." "Difficult?" I furrowed my brows. "Why? Mom was the one who said it." René's voice carried a hint of irritation. "It's about your kids. She said they're too energetic and hard to manage, so taking them on a trip would be too much." To be honest, Shelley agreed with her. I was at a loss for words. The unexpected reason made my chest tighten. "So you're saying it's because of my kids?" "That's not exactly what I said." René became defensive. "Mom was just worried. She thought she wouldn't be able to handle them during the trip." Our kids are a bit calmer. So well, they're just different, you know? I took a deep breath, trying to suppress my anger. That's the reason? Well, yeah. I guess you could put it that way. Renee's answer was vague. My hands trembled as I gripped the phone. Unbelievable. I barely managed to speak. I paid for half of the renovation costs thinking I was being a good daughter, and this is how I'm repaid? Wait a minute. That has nothing to do with this. Renee's voice grew tense. Getting upset over something like this is childish. Childish? I let out a small laugh, but it was far from amused. After being treated like this my whole life, you're telling me not to be angry now? Renee fell silent. I wanted to say something, but no words came to me. A quiet anger swirled inside my heart. I understand. I spoke calmly. That's enough. Then, I ended the call. In the silent room, only my breathing could be heard, but my anger did not subside, so I called my mother. The phone rang, and she answered, "What's wrong?" Her voice was calm, but I didn't hesitate to get straight to the point. I heard from Renee, "You didn't invite us on the trip because you think my kids are too difficult to handle." My mother was silent for a moment, then let out a small sigh. That boy always says too much. Is it true? I pressed on. It's not that I don't love your children. Her voice trembled slightly, but Renee's kids are calmer and easier to manage. I was just worried about what might happen during the trip. That's not a good enough reason. I raised my voice. Aren't we family? My mother sighed after a long silence. All right, we won't go on the trip. Really? I asked in surprise. Yes, if it bothers you that much, we won't go. There was a trace of exhaustion in her voice. I hung up the phone with mixed feelings. I hadn't wanted her to cancel the trip. I had just wanted to be included. A heavy weight settled in my chest, a feeling I couldn't quite put into words. Why did things always turn out this way? My relationship with my mother, my family's issues, they all piled up, throwing my heart off balance. I took a deep breath, trying to organize my thoughts, but they only spun in circles. That afternoon, as I prepared for Christmas, my mind replayed the conversation with my mother. I thought I would feel better by the time Martin came home, but the frustration still lingered inside me. Then, I heard the sound of the door opening. "I'm home," his cheerful voice echoed through the living room. I turned around and forced a small smile. "Welcome back, Martin. I need to talk to you. Is that okay?" "Of course." "Did something happen?" He walked over with a concerned look and sat down on the sofa. I took a deep breath before I began. I asked Renee about the trip. He told me the reason we weren't invited was because our kids are too noisy. When I called my mother, she admitted it was true. Martin fell silent, deep in thought. Then he slowly met my gaze and spoke. "I see. So they didn't invite us because of the kids." I never thought they felt that way, especially since they've always acted like they adored them. There was a slight hint of confusion in his voice. I shrugged and said, "I was surprised too because I thought they loved all their grandchildren equally. But honestly, it hurt a little." Martin gently took my hand. At that moment, I felt tears threatening to spill, but I quickly pulled myself together and smiled. "Thank you, Martin. Talking to you makes me feel a little better. Let's have a wonderful Christmas together as a family of 4. After that, we continued preparing for Christmas together. As I watched the snowfall outside the cold window, I felt a bit anxious about how this Christmas would turn out, but spending time with my family gradually warmed my heart. On Christmas morning, I sat in the living room, watching the news with a cup of coffee in hand. The children were opening presents under the tree with Martin, their joyful voices filling the room. I glanced back at the television screen. In that instant, my heart nearly stopped. On the screen was a familiar sight. Renee, Shelley, and our parents. Behind them stretched a bright blue ocean and a white sandy beach with people happily tossing a beach ball back and forth. At the bottom of the screen, the text read, "Live from Miami Beach. We're coming to you live from Miami Beach. Let's hear from people enjoying Christmas in the warm weather." A reporter held a microphone up to Renee. "How are you celebrating Christmas today?" Renee flashed a bright smile. "It's amazing to be here with my family. Having our parents with us makes this Christmas even more special." I tightened my grip on my cup. This is a lie. My mother told me they weren't going, and yet, here they were, happily vacationing with Renee's family. "Martin, look at this." Martin turned to the television and frowned. "No way. They said they wouldn't go on the trip." My voice trembled, but they lied to me and went anyway. Martin said nothing. He just held my hand tightly and stayed by my side. Without his warmth, I might have collapsed right then and there. I sank into the sofa and replayed everything in my mind. The childhood years when Renee was always treated as special. The countless times my efforts went unnoticed. The way my parents disregarded my feelings even after I paid for half of their home renovations. And most of all, the fact that even my children were treated as if they were a burden. It was all too much. Anger surged within me. "I can't take this anymore." I spoke quietly. I will never forgive them for trampling on my feelings. The next day, I went to the bank and stopped the payment for my parents' home renovation. That money was something I had saved for years. I had spent it out of love for my parents, but that love had been betrayed. I knew exactly how they would react, but I no longer cared. A few days later, after returning from their trip, my parents called me in anger. The renovation payment seems to have been stopped. What's going on? My mother's voice was filled with frustration. What's going on with you? I replied calmly. You told me you weren't going on the trip, but you went to Miami with Renee's family anyways, didn't you? My mother fell silent for a moment, but then she raised her voice. This is a completely different matter. Stopping the renovation payment is the height of ingratitude. Ingratitude? I let out a bitter laugh. Does Renee even know that I was the one paying for the renovations? What's the point of telling him that? She didn't even try to hide her irritation. You should help your family. It doesn't seem like we're considered part of that family. I ended the call abruptly. Shortly after, my brother called me. You're blowing this way out of proportion. Renee sounded exasperated. It's just a trip. It's not just a trip. You treated my kids like they were a burden and then lied to me about not going. And you expect me to just let it go? I didn't think you'd take it that way. Renee sighed. You're such a pain. I hung up and slammed my phone onto the table. I was done with all of it, but this wasn't over. A few days later, I received a letter from a lawyer. It was from my parents. The letter demanded repayment for the debt of raising me. They were trying to take legal action against me. I can't believe they'd go this far. I gripped the letter tightly and looked at Martin with trembling hands. We can't stay silent anymore. Martin spoke quietly. We're going to stand up to them. I took a deep breath and nodded. This time, I would make them hear my voice. I read the letter over and over again. The words written there weren't just ink stains on paper. They were blades slicing through my heart. I took a deep breath and slammed the letter onto the table. That night, I contacted a lawyer. One of Martin's colleagues had recommended someone trustworthy. When I explained the situation over the phone, the lawyer, Flora Howard, responded calmly. Don't worry. Legally, you have nothing to worry about. Their claim is weak. If necessary, we'll fight back. The next day, I went to Flora's office to meet her in person. She was a sharp-looking woman, her words firm and unwavering. First, we need to gather proof that you covered part of the home renovation costs. Bank transfer receipts, contracts, anything will do. When I got home, I pulled a file from the back of my closet. Inside, I had carefully stored all the payment receipts. I had contributed half of the costs within my means, hoping to support my family. As I checked each document, my anger slowly gave way to a calm sense of determination. A few days later, Flora contacted me. Your parents' demands have no legal standing. In fact, the fact that you paid for the renovations proves their neglect of responsibility. We will send them a certified letter warning them to cease all contact from now on. I took a deep breath. Please do. Weeks passed, and the new year arrived. My parents called the house several times, but I never answered. Martin handled it for me, calmly telling them all further communication must go through our lawyer. Furious, my parents called me ungrateful and accused me of abandoning my family, but their words no longer hurt me. Eventually, their attempts to contact me stopped. The legal warning must have worked, but it wasn't over yet. One day, I found an envelope in the mailbox. The sender was Renee. Now what kind of accusation is he going to throw at me? I muttered as I opened it. Inside was a single letter. I never thought you could be this cold. Do you even realize how much pain you've caused our parents? The bond between us as a family is completely destroyed now. I crumpled the letter and tossed it into the trash. Family bond? That had never existed for me in the first place. I was nothing more than a convenient tool to them. My parents treated me like something they could use whenever they needed help. It was the same when I covered part of the home renovation costs. When the house started aging and needed plumbing and roof repairs, they naturally turned to me for financial support. They told me, you should help for the sake of the family, and I paid for half of the costs. But I never once heard a word of gratitude. When my mother fell ill, I was the one forced to take care of her. When my father struggled with government paperwork, I had to take time off work to assist him. Renee was their golden child, always praised, never held accountable, and never asked for anything. It had become normal for me to be the only one taking care of them. Every time something happened, they would say, you're the only one we can rely on, leaving me with no choice but to comply. But in the end, I was nothing more than a convenient tool for them. I was filled with anger toward my parents and Renee for the way they had treated me. But more than that, I felt a sense of relief that I had finally stood up against years of unfair treatment. One day, I received a call from Flora. We got a response from their lawyer. It seems your parents are truly prepared to take legal action. I took a deep breath. So, what exactly are they planning? They're drafting documents to demand repayment for the debt of raising you. Essentially, They're asking you to reimburse them for past living expenses and school fees, but this is purely an emotional move. Legally, they have no grounds for this. I let out a bitter laugh. They were willing to go this far just to control me. Flora continued, "Of course, we will fight back. And on our end, we will formally demand repayment for the home renovation costs you covered. The fact that they used the money you paid without your consent is already unjust. Please do it." I responded without hesitation. In the following days, I gathered the necessary documents and made multiple visits to the law office. I ignored Renee's sarcastic messages and refused to answer my parents' calls. Martin was always there to support me. "You're doing the right thing. Stand up for yourself." His words saved me more than I could express. Finally, I received an official lawsuit from my parents. They were demanding a large sum of money using the duty of filial piety as their argument. I never imagined I would step through the doors of a courtroom, but I wasn't afraid. I was ready to stand my ground with Flora by my side. In court, my parents' lawyer repeated emotional arguments. It's natural for parents to raise their children, but children should be grateful and repay that kindness. Flora calmly refuted their claim. Irene paid for the home renovation as an act of filial duty, but gratitude and repayment are not obligations. They cannot be forced. And more importantly, what matters here is not sentiment, but whether there is a legal basis for their claim. The judge acknowledged that my parents' demands had no legal standing. Instead, the court ruled that they must reimburse me for the renovation costs I had covered. As the trial ended, my parents glared at me with hardened expressions. Renee bit his lip and stepped toward me. "By doing this, you've abandoned your family." I met his gaze head on. "If family is so important, then why did you always treat me like I didn't matter?" He had no response. I quietly walked out of the courtroom. After that, I never heard from my parents or Renee again. My battle was over. As the trial ended, I felt the weight lift off my shoulders for the first time. Martin remained by my side, and my children's smiles healed my heart. On weekends, we went on picnics. At night, we watched movies together. I cherished the small, everyday moments. Cutting ties with my parents was a sad thing, but with the burden of the past gone, I was finally free. One day, I received a call from Flora. "The reimbursement for the renovation cost has been successfully transferred. Thank you, Flora. You've been such a great help. You simply stood up for yourself. You should be proud." After hanging up the phone, I reflected once again on the choice I had made. I still wonder if I made the right decision, but I remind myself that at that moment, I stood up to protect myself and my family. After the verdict was handed down, my parents' lives changed drastically. The renovation costs were far greater than they had expected, and the amount they were ordered to repay weighed heavily on them. They couldn't manage with just their pensions. For the first time since retiring from his longtime company, my father started working a part-time job. I heard that my mother also took a job at a local supermarket. My parents had asked Renee for financial help several times, but he told them he was already struggling to support his own family and refused to assist them. In fact, I heard that he even pushed them away, saying, "This has nothing to do with me." Later, I found out that Renee had his own problems. He had failed a major project at work, which had significantly reduced his income. On top of that, an investment he had made backfired, putting his household in serious financial trouble. Even when our parents begged him for help, he had no way to provide it. A few months later, I received a letter from my parents. As I held the envelope in my hands, I hesitated. A part of me hoped that it might contain something important, that maybe, just maybe, they had changed. But when I opened it and read the contents, I found no apology regarding the lawsuit. The only thing written was a single sentence. "We want to see our grandchildren." I couldn't help but feel a pang of disappointment. Nothing had changed since that trial. There was no acknowledgement of the pain I had endured or the difficult decision I had made that day. The cold reality of it all tightened around my chest, but I quietly placed the letter in my drawer. Deep down, I knew that nothing would ever change, and that thought left me feeling a little lonely. That night, I talked to Martin. I wanted to seriously think about our future and the kind of family we wanted to build. The words I spoke came from the depths of my heart, shaped by everything I had been through. "I want to create a home where our children can truly feel equally loved." As I said it, Martin smiled gently and nodded. His response filled my heart with a warm light. "Then we've already succeeded." He looked at me as he said those words. His words made my chest tighten, and I struggled to hold back the tears that threatened to fall. I felt like I was slowly being free from the pain and loneliness of my past. Now, I am no longer bound by it. From here on, I will build a future with the people I love. Next Christmas, I want to spend a peaceful night with my family of 4. I want to cherish the moments when we feel truly happy together, because that is what matters most to us.